Hi, my name's Kelly Reid. I work for the Crib Social Inclusion Project. A few years ago, it was decided that our services around young people and families were fantastic, and we were sending out really good positive messages to young people and developing their knowledge around youth culture and youth crime, gangs, etc. But what we found we weren't doing was developing sessions that were solely for parents, so that parents and carers had the knowledge and understanding that our young people seem to get in abundance. So a lot of time we have knife awareness sessions for young people, we have sexual exploitation sessions for young people, advice on sexually transmitted diseases, and so on and so forth. But we weren't doing the same for parents, which meant that parents were left out of the loop. The Crib Social Inclusion Project has been going for the past 20 years. Our anniversary is next year. It was 3 years ago, so in 2015, after a spate of violent and fatalities within the Hackney Borough, that we decided to set up Parents' Voice. So what must it be like to be a parent whose young person is impacted by gang culture? I have met a number of young people that have been involved in gangs, and I can say that exiting the gang can be difficult, but I can also say that I know of a large number of young people who have exited gangs. I think the impact of being in a gang for a young person is, firstly, what happens is you are given some kind of kudos and status. This feels good. Most young people will really enjoy this, the pleasure of being noticed and people paying attention. I mean, the amount of young people that I have spoken to that have said, you know, before I got involved in this life, I do it like that, before I got involved in this. So before I got involved in this life, girls weren't interested in me. I got into a gang, and then all of a sudden, all these girls were interested in me. So, you know, for a young person, a young boy, I'm talking about boys quite generally, and I think I shouldn't really do that because I am aware of young girls getting involved in this. But in this case, it was, so this young person was then, you know, young people then get all of this attention from girls and stuff like that. So that starts off really, really good. But then what happens is then it becomes more and more serious, because what happens to young people is once they are in too deep, that's when they decide that they want to come out, but that's when it's too late. So the easiest way for me to break it down would be, for example, I have purchased something for you. So I myself am a gang member, let's say. I'm not, but let's say. So I'm a gang member and I want your young person to get involved in my gang. What I would do is I would generally shower this person with gifts. Now, this could be gifts such as, oh, don't worry, here's £10, here's £5, grab yourself something to eat. It can start as simple as that. Then this will gradually grow to the person who is trying to groom you and get you involved in the gang, realizing that, let's say, for example, you aren't wearing the latest pair of trainers. So that person will say, you know what, hold this for me and I'll sort you out. So most young people, they say, I'll nice you up. So hold this and I'll sort you out. So what happens is that person will hold a package. They may not have to do anything with that package. Just hold it. Just keep it in your house. Your mum doesn't know. Nobody knows. The police are never going to know. So they will hold the package. They will then receive a pair of trainers, a new bag. I had one young boy that received a woolly hat, and he was so pleased. And it was a name brand woolly hat that he'd received, but he was really happy to receive the hat. And then he realised how deep he was, because once you've had something and you've received it and you've taken it, that's when you realise that you're involved in the gang, because then you think you've done something for nothing, but actually then you owe, because you may have held the package, but by accepting the gift, you have now put yourself deeper in. Because if you've accepted it once, they then will say to young people, well, now you belong to me. And actually what I gave you is worth more. So now you need to hold this. And now you need to do that. You know, and there are certain circumstances where a young person feels that vulnerable in that state when they have been introduced to the gang life, that it's very, very difficult to back out. But I have noticed that I'd say in the last year, that more and more parents are very, very worried about their young person and going out. And it's really weird because it's going out or staying in too much. And the reason why this is because we've got, on one hand, we've got people talking about, we've got officials talking about mental health and the importance of socializing and your children not isolating themselves and playing on, numerous consoles. I don't want to say any names of the consoles. So we've got people that are, we've got these influential people that are saying that we need to be careful of our children being isolated. So that's one hand. So a parent is worried now. Oh, my child's going to be isolated. What am I going to do? I can't keep them in all the time. And then on the other hand, you have got people, journalists, media, portraying the risks constant. It's risky out there. The percentages in knife crime have gone up. The percentages in those getting involved in gangs, gang grooming, the chicken shops, and all of this stuff is going out. And what it does is it fears parents. It puts fear into parents. So what we've got is, one hand, your child needs to socialise. On the other hand, there's all this risk out there. So what do you do as a parent? You completely panic. What do I do? Oh my God, my child can't stay in too much. I think what we need to be aware of is that it's important that when you are seeing a report in regards to gangs, youth violence and fatalities, we are looking into it. Watching a 2-minute report, 3-minute report is not giving you enough detail. It is just a report and it puts fear into you. It's about making sure that if your local authority has sessions like the sessions that Parents Voice deliver across boroughs, that we take advantage of those sessions so that we are more informed. We aren't just getting clippets of how dangerous it is for our children, and we aren't getting clippets of the importance of our children not isolating ourselves. Because then what happens is we then get confused. We get confused as parents because we're just taking small pockets of information when what we need is to sit down and take advantage of the support that is out there to inform parents in more depth about the risks of youth culture, what the actual statistics are, who are getting involved in gangs, why do people get involved in gangs, is it on the increase, isn't it on the increase? This needs to be done in a more informed way. Watching a newspaper, reading a newspaper article isn't enough. It doesn't give you enough detail. I know that the vast majority of young people who have been stabbed, if you looked at the statistics of those that have been stabbed or fatally stabbed, you will find that somewhere along the line there has been a connection. Now, I am not saying I work with a lot of parents who have lost their children. I am not saying that these young people are linked to the gangs in the sense that they are participating in the gangs. There may just be an association link. For example, your child goes and plays football with somebody on the weekend who is involved in a gang. Now, your child may not know this. However, on the way back from football, somebody who is involved in a gang sees the other gang member walking with your child. Your child will then be associated to that person. Your child then becomes a risk. This is why it is important that you are aware of your children's friends. Talking to your children about their friends, not questioning them. There's questioning and there's talking. Talking to your children about their friends is just making it a very general, light conversation. As a parent, I know that my child usually wants to speak when it's time for bed. So as soon as I say it's time for bed, they want to have this massive conversation with me. And there are times when I felt like saying, no, it's bedtime, you've got to go to sleep. However, if that's the time that your child is going to open up, then that's the time that you need to speak. Sitting your child down in the living room and saying, well, I'm really concerned about something and we need to have the conversation now, your child is more than likely just to shut down. So it's important that if we create an open space sorry about that. If we create an open space where we know our child is ready to talk, for example, we may be making dinner. Our child comes in and wants to have a conversation with us. And we say, oh, not right now because I'm making the dinner. We've lost the moment. We've lost the moment. And I think this is what we need to be aware of. These moments for our children to talk to us do arise. But life is very busy. But it's never too busy to have that conversation with your child and gain a greater understanding into what it is like for them to be a child. Not what it's like for us to have all the fear. We need to understand them and what it's like for them. Who are their friends? How are they finding it going to school? How are they finding it in school? You know, are you getting on with other children? But these conversations don't need to be direct. These need to be open-ended conversations. You know, you need to take advantage of the moments that are there to engage in conversation with your child. I'll give you another example. There was a parent, when we're talking about engaging in conversation, there was a parent whose child was going through a really tough time with gang affiliation. The parent was not aware of it. And on numerous occasions, the child would come in, slam the door, go upstairs and close the door and stay in. The parent would often shout, "Do not shut my door and respect me in my house." I understand, I'm a parent, that, you know, this is the first thing that comes to mind. Respect me. How dare you come in my house? I totally get that. However, what we've got to remember is if your child is not the type of child that would slam the door and walk and stomp up the stairs, and they have done that, something could be going on. And we've missed the moment. Because then when you do go up to the room and you say, oh, how was your day? They don't want to speak to you because you've just shouted at them. It's just being really, really mindful of these things. We know our children more than the government. We know our children more than the school. So therefore, we are responsible for monitoring our children's moods, understanding what our children are like, noticing the changes in their behaviour, being aware of the friends that they are with, being aware if they are not attending lessons in school, being aware if they are not doing their homework. Children with a lack of attainment are proven to get involved in risky behaviour. It's proven. There's been loads of research on it. If a child is struggling in school, they are more likely to get involved in risky behaviour. They are more likely to be more vulnerable. If your child has been excluded from school, that child is then left to be outside during school hours where they are more vulnerable to be seen by those older people who do groom young people for gangs. I'm going to give an example of a parent who has attended a Parents' Voice workshop. We spoke about gang affiliation during the workshop, and we spoke about something called DEETS. DEETS is where a young person is encouraged to use their address to purchase items online. Now, I had a call from a parent after attending the session, and she was very, very concerned about the fact that her daughter had freely given out her card details. Now, while giving out the card details and her address, this was done for the purpose so that somebody would then use their card. The mum found out, luckily enough, because the card was linked to the mother's phone, that the person had tried to access internet banking. Now, this was so that the person could then transfer money. So, for example, somebody's in a gang, they make a lot of money. You need to make this money legitimate money. Now, what they sometimes will do is use another young person to legitimize the money. So if you put the money into somebody else's bank account, not so much legitimize, but to move that spend and that income away from themselves. So we have a lot of vulnerable young people that do want to be liked by others, and that will have friends that will suggest to them, well, oh, you know, I just need your bank details just so I can put a bit of money in because my mum's going to say A, B, and C. Now, you know, young people, they are vulnerable, and some young people won't question that, because if somebody's claiming to be your friend, then a friend does nice things for friends. So you'll have some young people that will say that. The parent contacted me asking for advice on what to do about this. It turned out that this young person had transferred money into her daughter's account and had used the money that was in the daughter's account. Luckily enough, because of the prevention session that we had done, the mother was able to identify what was going on immediately, make contact with myself. I was able to then create the referral pathway and tell the mother what to do in regards to shutting down the bank account and so on and so forth. Also, I've spoke to parents whose children have had stuff delivered. Now, unfortunately, we live in a time where, how can I put it? We live in a time where a number of parents are facing a struggle. So if we start our children off at a young age by showering them with gifts and different name brands and stuff like that, we set a precedence. Once we've set that precedence, this is fine while your child has small feet and a small body. However, when this child grows, this child's clothes and feet will grow, and the increase in the price of these items will also grow. So I have found what's happened is the parents then can't afford to buy these items, but we have already started something. So we have already started our children wanting to be somebody that wears name brand items. By doing this, what we then do is we make our children more vulnerable to people in gangs and to the grooming process, because these children want things that you gave them when they were younger that you can no longer afford. So children will then be offered, for example, I know of children, and this is going a good few years back, I know a young person was offered £250 to man a mobile phone. And I'm talking at least, 5-6 years ago. They were given a mobile phone, asked to man the mobile phone for £250 a week. We identified that there was a problem with this child because every time that they came into the youth provision, they were really, really tired. And then the young person opened up, said that they wasn't sleeping much. We monitored the young person, spoke to the parent, and then it came out that this young person was holding this line and being paid to hold the line. And that's why he wasn't getting any sleep, because he was up 24 hours a day, because at the age of 14, he was manning someone's telephone line. But what was more upsetting is that the parent was aware of the income, because if your child is walking in items that you have not purchased, and if you turn a blind eye once, what you are doing is you are telling your child that this is okay. You may not have said that this is okay, but that's exactly what you're doing. You are telling your child that it is absolutely fine to earn your money in a way that is not appropriate. We as parents have the responsibility of teaching our children all of these things. We cannot blame the government. Too many times I have sat down and spoke with parents, and parents have spoke about what the government has done. So the government has stopped me from disciplining my children. The government have taken away the resources from the youth service and other services. I totally get that the government has done that. However, this is a predicament that we are in. And as parents, it is our responsibility to make sure, even though these resources have been drained, that we are doing our part as parents. Now, the government has not told you how to create boundaries in your house, has not told you that you are not allowed to discipline your children. The government has said you are not allowed to abuse your children. This has always been the case, that abuse is wrong. So disciplining your children is right. It's fine. It's okay. We can't blame the government. I also have parents who have blamed the school. But the school did this and the school did that, and the school said this, and my son's not doing the homework, and the school has blamed me. Well, actually, it's your responsibility. You're the parent. It's not the school's responsibility to make sure that your child's homework is done. These are the kind of things that we need to look out for. So if we're subconsciously telling our children these messages, oh, well, it's the government's fault, and the school gives you too much homework, and that teacher in year 7 wasn't really nice because I noticed that they're picking on you. If we are talking to our children like this, we are sending them the message that we aren't willing to take responsibility for our children. And we have to take responsibility for our children. It is a collective of things. It's about working alongside the school. There's nothing we can do about the cuts to government. All we can do as parents is making sure that we are working alongside the schools. We are aware of where our children are. We are aware of who our children are with. If your child during the summer holidays leaves the house at 8:30 in the morning when they wake up and does not return until 9 o'clock at night, we as the parent need to know where that child has been. We as the parent are responsible. Because if you don't know where your child is all day long, you can't blame the government. You have to take onus